So let's get started, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where we get.
See where we end up.
But I think most of the exciting stuff is happening in Belgium now. So the center of gravity of Clojure has shifted to Belgium.
Is that like, have I just like single-handedly moved the center of gravity of Clojure? I think I'm not that much of a heavyweight.
I think when you left Germany, Clojure left Germany. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Berlin used to be the center of gravity of Clojure. Now it's moved there, and then, well, maybe the heart of Clojure.
I feel like London is like where a lot of the stuff is happening these days. Even though like I don't think the community is like super well connected, but there's a lot of like, there's like two Clojure banks in London.
Griffon or something. The
Griffon, and there's another one. I keep forgetting the name. There's like 3 fully licensed Clojure banks now, and 2 of them are in London.
Oh,
Crew, like KROO, something like that.
Oh yeah, it could be Crew.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I mean, they're probably local London online banks, maybe.
But I think the fact that the London Clojurians are like really consistent at publishing video talks and from the whole community, not just London developers, but it really, I think that's pretty impressive. I don't see any other Clojure group being so kind of well organized,
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, no, it's really cool that like it sort of really become like the main online venue where people can just go and give a talk.
Yeah,
and it could have been like anywhere, right? Because like it's really just like at this point it's really just sort of like an online meetup. I mean, they have like in-person meetups too. They still do the dojos and stuff, but I think it's actually kind of like different people organizing those.
You mean the local ones and the remote ones?
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's nice that they're carrying the, what do you call that? Like they're carrying the torch and then continuing that one. But there is not much activity in the rest of the world, I think. I don't know. We need to see. We need to see what people are up to these days. It's been
there is definitely a thing that like just in general, like tech communities in general, like a lot of the grassroots stuff, like COVID really took a big hit and like we're nowhere near the levels we were like 2019 and earlier.
I mean, I think the European conference scene was like there was at least half a dozen conferences in Europe, and I know obviously we can argue about adoption rates and stuff like that, but I don't really feel like it's changed that much. It's just like you say, Arne, I think it's mostly just the fact that, once people got out of the habit of organizing these conferences on a kind of annual basis or biannual basis. Is biannual every 2 years? I can't remember biannual.
I think it means both. I think it means both.
Yeah, probably.
Right. Well, one of the ones where it's every 2 years rather than twice a year.
But I think from the context, you mean it's every 2 years now. Yeah. Which used to happen 2 times a year. So it's still biannual.
Anyway, I mean, I think people got out of the habit of it because of the pandemic. And then, like everyone maybe makes, I don't know, I guess you make choices. I mean, I guess it's interesting to think about what your choice was, Arne, because I know that after the first Heart of Clojure, which was an amazing success, definitely, by the way, kudos for that. I think that was wonderful. But I know you kind of wanted to take a break and because it was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, and I was very tired after the first Heart of Clojure. I was also like looking at some of the pictures there. Like there's this one picture I just shared recently on Clojurians in the Heart of Clojure channel of like me holding up this box of waffles.
Yeah.
And if you look at my face, it's like I'm like emaciated and like this, just like I'm excited. I'm still there, but like I probably had like slept like 4 hours or something. I was wrecked. And I a couple things happened. I think first of all, like just like time passes and you kind of forget the annoying bits.
Is it a bit like having a baby?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a general human thing, that it's with things like that, which like, there's like, obviously there's also a lot of positive. Like, I mean, it was a hugely successful event, like you said. Like, people really loved it. It got so much positive feedback. And so, like, over time that stays, because people also keep reminding you of that, oh, Heart of Clojure was so great. When are you doing it again?
Yeah.
And all that, sweat and tears, like that year of buildup and all the stress around it, kind of like, fizzles out over time. But what really happened was, like, our Heart of Clojure was also the first year that I had founded Guy1. So, like, Guy1's my company, right? Like, so, like, at the time, I was getting more client work. I basically had more client work than I could do. That was one thing. I had, done Lambda Island for a while, which was just like me solo everything. And I really burned out on that. And I was like, okay, like, I no longer want to do just like stuff all by myself. And then Martin Klepsch, we were talking about this conference, which then became Heart of Clojure. And so it was like, okay, like, maybe now is the time to actually set up a company. Then we can immediately run Heart of Clojure with the company, and I can actually start building out a team. And so that's 5 years ago. At that point, I still didn't know what I was doing with Guy1, right? But now we're a few years further on. We have a bit of a team, like people who've been around for a couple of years. It's a bit, even though it's been a rough year too, just with the economic situation and everything. But like, there's a bit more of a process. It's a bit more stable. And there was an appetite within the team to do some kind of event. And actually, there's a really nice venue here in my hometown. So I'm in Aarschot, which is like 15 minutes from Leuven. And there's a really nice venue here. It's not big, but you can seat maybe 100 people. And we were thinking of doing like a Guy1 birthday party event.
Right.
Sort of like a mini conference, mostly by invitation. Had some cool ideas around that. But then, we actually started discussing, okay, like, if we're going to do an event, is that what we really want to do? And then we also started thinking about, okay, well, there's been discussion for years of bringing back Euro Clojure or something like Euro Clojure. So then we were started thinking about, okay, like, should we actually just do a Euro Clojure? And then, I don't know, I think Bettina, like my co-CEO, I think she said it was like, okay, but then why don't we do like Heart of Clojure again? And like, it turned out that when we really looked inward and thought about it and like saw how we felt, it was like, okay, well, like, maybe like in a couple of years we'd be happy to like support and help organize something like a Euro Clojure, but we haven't really done an event yet with this team. Let's actually do Heart of Clojure again, but like really with the team that we have now. And then kind of see how we feel about that.
Yeah.
And so that's how we decided to do Heart of Clojure again.
How would you, like, maybe as I'm being a bit naive here, but how would you distinguish a Euro Clojure event from a Heart of Clojure event?
I think, Heart of Clojure is really my baby, right? Like, it's a very particular thing. And like, I'm very opinionated and stubborn. And like, a lot of my work too, like, people who work with me closely for a while, they might start to see this, that like, also a lot of the open source stuff I do, it's really born out of just frustration. It's just like seeing stuff in the world and, just feeling like, like, people, this is not how you do it. Okay. And then just, I'll just have to do it myself. And so, that's how a lot of my open source comes to be. And that's also, I think, to an extent, how Heart of Clojure came to be. And so I think like a Euro Clojure, it would be much more about, like, let's collaborate with these different, like the people from Finland, the people from Berlin, the people from London, kind of see how we can form a team together. And it would probably be much more like a traditional conference where you get more like, a typical conference venue. Probably more technical talks, I imagine, like Heart of Clojure. This time we have a bit more technical talks again, but we mostly want to emphasize like non-technical talks, more about, the human side, creative stuff, experience reports. That's the heart, right? That's the heart of Clojure.
Yeah.
And so these are like all particular choices that like I'm happy to make for my conference, but I don't know if that's like the choices you would make if you're sort of like as a committee organizing a Euro Clojure.
Yeah. It's always a challenging thing, right? Because every conference that I've been to, that the organizers have their stamp on it. Like they show something. And for me, Euroclosure was always part of the Cognitect / New Bank or whatever. I think that it's part of the bigger Clojure core event, right?
Well, it
It
wasn't
was less,
always, right?
not initially, not the first couple of ones. I think later, I think the last one we had it in Bratislava. I think that was mainly by Alex and I think I forgot the other person's name.
Yeah, so
The
they
media
Cognitect
coordinator.
bought it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I don't know who it originally started, but I know like it was someone, just like taking the initiative initially by themselves.
Yeah.
Was Bratislava really the last one? Because that was 2016. Because I still wear the T-shirt sometimes. It's like Euro Clojure 2016.
Maybe there is one in Barcelona which I didn't go to. Probably that's the.
No, Barcelona was earlier. I think there was one more in Berlin. Was that after? I think that might have been after Bratislava.
I don't know, because I remember going to Bratislava.
Right, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a bit weird in Berlin because you have the Clojure D as well,
Yeah.
Clojure D is. It seems like because Clojure D is Doctronic, right? Like, but really it was like Ingo and Sandra.
Yeah.
And it seems like Sandra no longer works with Doctronic, and she really, did the bulk
the
of
engine.
all the behind the scenes,
Yeah,
like
but if you see,
everything.
I think every conference, I think coming from previous life of running a conference, I can see like every conference has like handful of people who basically putting all their effort and time, and then that's the thing, right? Because these conferences are not like old Java World or reInvent, that there is a marketing team, there is this and huge amount of investment and everything. Especially given the niche Clojure operates in, I think now we can say that after almost 15 years now, we've reached some sort of a nice equilibrium, that this is where we are at in the programming languages. I don't know, chart or a map. Every conference, if you see, for example, stuff that is happening in UK is most probably Jext folks putting their time in. XTCon for a few other things.
Yeah,
same
there's
with
XT
Finland.
there, but like Reclojure is really the thing. Is like Dutch Clojure Days, Reclojure, Clojure D, Clojure Tray, like all of these. They're all in the ballpark of somewhere between free and like at most a couple €100 for a ticket.
Yes. Yeah.
Which means that these are like, even though say Clojure Tray, it's organized by Metosyn.
Yeah.
But really, it's a community conference.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not. Yeah, it was never like a profit thingy or whatever. Because I remember when DCD discussions were happening, I think at least one or two times we were so strapped with money and everything. Like, maybe we should just ask at least €5 from everybody. And I was very adamant that no, let's keep it for free. Because at the same time, like the JavaScript conferences, and it seems ages ago now, 10 years ago, like 800, 900 euros. And from our point of view, it was like, we are asking people to come to Amsterdam, which is already expensive, stay in Amsterdam, which is already expensive. Now, if we add up to that, and most of the people at that time, at least, coming to Clojure conferences are hobbyists or who want to learn about the language. And it was never approved by their whatever the fucking managerial hierarchy that they work under. So it's always been a challenging thing for approving this one, right? If you go to Java World, if you go to, I don't know, reInvent or something, if you go to one of these fancy things, then it's part of your mainstream work. Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Like, if you really want to make money on a conference, you need to charge €1,000 for a ticket. And
exactly.
we already tripled our ticket price. Last time we were around €100. Now we're around €300.
Yeah.
but we're also like, we got 2 venues now. We got many more speakers. We were just looking at the price for the hotel. It's going to
And
be like,
cost of everything is crazy now.
yeah, like, with like more speakers. Also, I think last time for a lot of speakers, we only paid 2 nights. Like this time I was like, okay, no, we paid 3 nights for everyone. But yeah, so hotels gotten 2 times more expensive.
Yes.
Venues gotten 3 times more expensive because we have 2 of them, and the second one was much more expensive.
Yeah.
So we're still hoping to like make a little bit of a profit on it, like not counting any hours, obviously. But yeah,
exactly.
like we're like if you actually would count the hours, it's maybe like €5 an hour that we're making on this. But we want to at least, like, and we're at the point where like it looks like we're mostly out of the weeds in that, like, if we don't sell many more tickets, we'll probably break even. So now it's really about, okay, like, can we A, like, make a little bit of money on this, and B, can we, get some more budget to actually do some nice things.
Yeah.
Make it, like as Heart of Clojure is supposed to be, like all this fringe stuff. Last time we had the screen printing, we had gelato, we had waffles, these things, right? Like, we need budget for those things. So people, if you're on the fence, please get your ticket now. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really, but I think what I really appreciate is, spending the time that you're spending out of, it's out of love, right? It's not something that you're not, when you start the conference, you're not thinking like, okay, how much profit can we make? It's about, okay, we want to get everybody together, learn and share. I think that's the bigger aim for most of these conferences, at least in Clojure. Yeah.
It's really about bringing the people together. And then, like, lately I've really been like, telling people that, like, the people are the conference, because if you think about it,
exactly.
Like, if you do the mental math, like, if everything that we do, like renting the venue, getting the, putting talks up, getting like lunch, like, imagine if none of that happened, but these same couple hundred people would end up in Leuven for the same 3 days.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Exactly.
Like, you just like, you'd meet up, you'd go to a bar somewhere, you'd, talk Clojure, you'd have a great time. Whereas if you put it the other way around, if none of the people show up, it doesn't matter how much of an amazing venue we have, you got nothing. It's literally nothing.
Yeah. No, but it's really nice. I think it's last time we had great experience, and it's also a nice way to discover a new city and then meet all the people that you have been chatting online all the time, right? I mean, for whatever, I mean, the general stereotypical, oh, we are always online, and the technical people, we prefer to chat rather than pick up the phone. We have all these stereotypical things, but also the nice atmosphere, and then, oh yeah, I was talking to you on this channel or that channel, that builds up the community, right? That suddenly elevates the discussions as well. I think that's the nice part that we kind of missed in the last few years, and this is a nice. Hopefully, this is going to be a nice catalyst, or maybe trigger for more people coming to Clojure. Probably.
I think maybe on another note, one of the things that we talk about, like, things being influenced by people and choices that you make, etc. I think one of the, I mean, not to blow too much smoke up your ass, but I think one of the really nice things that you've done, Arne, is you've had a real focus on diversity and inclusivity, and I think that's, I think it can be done sometimes with a sort of like bureaucratic box ticking kind of approach, which I find sort of pious or whatever, It's a little bit not even pious, just a bit heartless, just a little bit like, I'm doing it because, I have to do it. But I know that from your perspective, and, I get the real feels from you always, that this is something which is really, central to you and your mission in the company and in your life, so maybe let's talk a little bit about that, because, I think that's super important and a super important part of the conference,
It is. I do think it is, but it's a really hard one. Like, I come from the Ruby community, right? And like, when I landed in Berlin, in 2012, I really, like, my first good friends I made there, and many of the friends that I kept over the years are all folks I met through the Ruby, the Ruby meetups. But then through those, I very quickly got involved with Rails Girls. And Rails Girls Berlin at the time was amazing. They had a really good crew, and like I'd say at least 3 times a year, they would do a free workshop for women to and sometimes it was even like 2-day workshops where basically you would like build a web app in a day, get it online on Heroku. And the thing is that like in those years, I've really seen the Ruby meetup just become so much more diverse. Like after a couple of years, you really saw that like, oh, there's so many women. And of course, diversity is much more than just women. But women for me are like,
it's a good start. Yeah.
It's a good start because like half the population are women, and yet they're so incredibly underrepresented. And like you've really seen that difference. And we tried to do a similar thing with Clojure Bridge Berlin. So I was one of the folks who took the initiative for that, and we actually it was funny. We had apart from like the workshops, also a lot of study groups spun out of Rails Girls Berlin. And so I was a coach at one of these study groups, the Ruby Monsters, and met a lot of great folks there, folks that I'm still in touch with. And a few of us, at some point, I was starting to get into Clojure. I was starting to get into Overtone. And so I showed this to a few folks, and we were like, okay, let's do this. And so, I mean, it was interesting. In the end, like we bit off more than we could chew because we were like trying to learn, like Emacs, Overtone, and Clojure, like all at the same time. It was like going back between, these are like principles of sound design, and then this is how you write a let form, and then this is how you switch buffers. Just like, and like it was like once a week. So like after a week, they had already forgotten everything and like kept like cheat sheets and. But like at one of these like Monday evening sessions, we saw that folks somewhere in West Berlin. It was not Cologne even. It was like I don't even remember which city it was, but like some company there, a couple folks there were doing a Clojure bridge. And we were like, no effing way. Like, there's a Clojure bridge in Germany and there's no Clojure bridge in Berlin. We're going to do Clojure bridge. And so we ran Clojure bridge for a couple of years. But then, I mean, that was also super exhausting. And the thing with a lot of these things, a lot of this community stuff is like, there's so many people that want to help. There's so many people that if you ask them, do you want to volunteer? Do you want to do something? They're like, yeah, like just tell me what to do. But you need like one or two people who will say, okay, let's do a workshop in the fall. Let's go talk to these companies. Let's pick one of these weekends. Let's actually make it happen. You do this, you do that. We need to get in touch with those. Let's have a meeting every week on Tuesday. Like someone who's the manager. Who actually, or the producer, the person who makes it all happen and herds all the cats. And that's a very ungrateful role. Like it's extremely exhausting. You're dealing with all people with a lot of goodwill who are, but they're all just volunteering and they're all, probably have busy jobs. So a lot of them will end up to be flaky and unreliable. And you kind of just have to accept that and work around that. But you're
getting people like, who are working in the same company 9 to 5, same goals, same projects, getting them to work in the same direction is already a challenge enough when you have people spread all over the place. And yeah.
So I did like the last couple ones. I was one of the folks like sort of being the producer behind that. And then I was like, okay, like I'm stepping down from that role. Whoever takes the initiative, I'm there to help. But it's not going to be me. And so then the Clojure Bridge Berlin just fizzled out. And like it saddens me, because like I saw what like consistent effort can do to your community. But, we haven't had that consistent effort in the Clojure community.
Mm.
And so we are, in comparison, a very non-diverse community on multiple axes.
Yeah.
And so also for Heart of Clojure, I mean, we have like opportunity grants, we have diversity tickets, we actually got like, we really had to like almost beg people to apply. Like we like we put that on the website, we announced it on on our social media, mailing lists, like tried to get the word out about it, and then like and in the end, like everyone just sort of like started, just like texting people they knew who might qualify. It's like, hey, like if you're interested, please apply.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but it's also a small community, right? Because I think it's like a cat and mouse problem. Not cat and mouse. Is it cat and mouse call? Or is the catch 22? Sorry. Yeah.
Chicken and egg.
Yeah, chicken and egg. Cat and mouse.
The mouse doesn't catch the cat. It would exactly. work if it
no,
did.
I think I was thinking like Tom and Jerry, like a never-ending chase. Like
yeah. Okay.
No,
I get that.
But I think it's like the community is not that big enough to keep attracting or being in the radar of practically everybody, right? That's another. There is not much of that one. And on the other hand, if these events don't happen, then there is not enough noise on the interwebs for people to notice, hey, this is a really nice language, nice community. This is something that we need to learn, or we want to learn. Because at the end of the day, I think these days, if I see posts on Reddit or if I post on other people, they're, because I put my fingers into multiple pies, like, SRE work, DevOps stuff, and then Clojure, and then data and everything, and then Python. So everybody is like, oh, can I get a job with this thing? The new people are always coming up with this question, right? And then the shitty part is that the biggest behemoth is, learn Node, because you can become a backend developer and front-end developer and React Native developer. You can do everything.
Well, we know all that
that's
stuff,
basically
though,
shit.
But,
yeah, but there is no.
I'll let you land in a second, but come on.
Yeah, but there is no.
I don't know about
how
all
would you
this.
solve this problem? So yeah.
Because like people, like, Clojure is a fairly small community, but I don't think that itself is like a valid excuse for not being more diverse.
No, of course, yeah.
And there's also a lot of talk of, like we need more, beginner level materials, and we need more, like people, like
this
jobs.
This is gone. Yeah, this is gone through like 20 iterations now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I am starting to come to the conclusion that, like, while all those things are good, like, of course, like people like need to have a good initial experience and so forth. But like what we've been missing compared to, like say like Ruby or JavaScript or Rust, like we just don't have enough people just being like gleefully happy and excited online.
Yeah.
Like people are just like, oh, like this is the coolest shit. I love this. I'm going to share it. I'm going to write like, like funny blog posts about it with lots of emotions because I just can't contain how cool I think this shit is. Like Clojure is just too like there's just too many. Yeah, well, I was going to say like old guys, but like
old grumpy people. No, but that is something that's what I'm saying. The culture comes from top to bottom, right? I mean, Perl became fucking.
Yeah. I mean, you said it, but it's not wrong.
What the fuck? Yeah, I mean, like that's how it comes out. Like, why people? I mean, I worked inside Oracle, right? Nobody hates Oracle for people who are working there. Everybody hates because Larry Ellison is running that one because of the way that he is behaving. For what it's worth, like everything is seen like that. And if I remember, one of the programming language communities like Perl used to be so fucking fun all the time because Larry Wall is fucking fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's
and like,
fun
like
guy. Like there is no question about it.
A programming language that is just made to write poetry in.
Yes, like, exactly. And I recently read a paper that you can prove that every paint splatter can be a valid Perl program.
Yes.
That's the fun stuff. But at the same time, you're talking about Rust, right? And if you see the people who are in Rust, and that's what they say, as you're saying, like, hey, this is cool shit, this is nice, and I just found this fun things. And I think we I don't know, not we, maybe me, as I become older, I get less excited about shit anymore.
Yeah.
It's like the Hitchhiker guy, Douglas Adams quote.
Well,
Like,
let
okay,
me interrupt this whinge fest with a bit of brightness. Come on, this is getting too much now. I mean, I think we look at people like the Borg dude and people like that, and they're really exciting. They're really doing some amazing stuff. So let's not be too down on like what the people are.
No.
Yeah, but yes, but I'm just,
also Jordan,
Wait. So you're talking to a guy who ran free conference for 5 years, and you're talking to a guy who is reviving and then ran one of the amazing conferences.
Yeah, but you're sounding pretty fucking miserable about it, mate. I'm just trying to say that, before we get into kind of like total hole of depression here about how fucked up we all are, maybe we can just like lift this up before we hit the mountain. Let's just lift this up a little bit, It's not all doom and gloom.
You're right. You're right, Jay, but Ray. But like, there's there's a couple people like that are like big names that everybody knows and everybody looks up to, but there's not this like, like grassroots, just like random individuals. And that's also, I mean, I think the web has also changed.
Yeah.
When I was doing Ruby, like every day there would be just some random person just like blogging about their stuff, and that like I don't know what people do. I guess they write like on Medium or like on
some other locked
But yeah, like that that kind of stuff. Like they're really and just like bringing that out to their friends and in their local communities. And Clojure Camp, like is trying to do some of that stuff. And I think is amazing. You guys know about Clojure Camp, right?
Well, it used to be called something else, didn't it? The Clojure Clownage or Clownger?
The Clownsel.
The Clownsel.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, now I remember.
Yeah. So I was part of the original Clownsel.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it transitioned to Clojure Camp, but I'd lost touch with it after the Clownsel, to be honest. So
they did.
I remember Clownsel branding.
Maybe they should work more on their marketing, but they're doing great. They got like it's still a relatively small, but it's an active community. They they meet regularly. They have like office hours. They have, and with the Clownsel, I mean, it also transformed a little bit. And I'm not like the authoritative source on this because I'm only like watching from the sidelines. But from my understanding, they actually try to focus more on encouraging like local groups. Like, and that's something that I like wanted to do as well with that whole thing for a long time. It's like like we can, because the Clownsel was okay, like every couple of weeks,
online,
the bunch of us, it was like like me, Paula, Daniel, Jordan, and then Mike. Basically go online, on a Zoom call with whoever wanted to join, and we would answer questions and just talk shop, and we try, we made it fun, right? We would have like funny hats, and
it was nice.
But yeah, like I would like to see something that scales more, and so like I also like when I was still involved, like tried to get these ideas in, and it seems like afterwards they kind of adopted some of that stuff of like prepare the materials and prepare the framework. And sort of be a matchmaker for coaches and learners to find each other and form their own groups, and then kind of guide them with like, okay, well, how do we run this now? And really this also like harkens back to the whole Rails Girls thing, right? So like Rails Girls, they would have these workshops 2 or 3 times a year, and at the end of the workshop, they would ask, okay, well, do you want to keep going? And then they would kind of like figure out, like, okay, well, these people want to keep going. These coaches are interested to form a new group. And then like every single time, like 1 or 2 new groups would form. And so the Ruby Monsters were the first, but then you had like, I know you had the Rubicorns, I think. And there were a whole bunch. And so that idea, like, and I'd still, I don't know, we'll see. Like I'm going to take a good break after Heart of Clojure. And I need to like, I'm not good at saying no, and that's a real problem. And I already like also like with Gaiwan, I'm doing way too much, like way more than I should be doing. But yeah, like I I'm no longer part of, or like I dropped out of the council mainly because everyone else was North America.
Right.
And so we, like we had these calls, I think like every week or every 2 weeks, and it was always late in the evening here, and it was
time
just
zones and
tiring.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe when the dust has settled on Heart of Clojure, I'll like found a European chapter.
Yeah.
Because that's the stuff I still believe in, like if it's like, yeah, if you wanna encourage that kind of diversity, I think things like that really help to have these specific spaces that just have a different vibe from the overall community, where these people who are like, because like I think sometimes people struggle to like find places and people to relate to. I think like something like Clojureverse or Clojurian Slack, like there's probably a lot of lurkers on there. But we're just like, okay, like I see all these like big names discussing in these channels.
Yeah.
But this doesn't really feel like a place where I'm gonna find people like me. And so
yeah, that's always a challenge. But I think the main thing for me is that the spirit is there, right? That's the reason why you see people longing for conference like Heart of Clojure. That there is still people waiting for, is there an opportunity for me to bond or join the community, see what else is happening. I think that's a nice. If it is not there, then you would because you have the pulse on the community way more. So you know that anyway. Yeah.
But coming back to the whinging, I mean, of course we can always
oh,
kind of
we're not done.
No, we are done. But I was going to say we can always kind of like look to some of the folks, and Rich especially is a bit of a curmudgeon, I think. But in the end, he's retired now, and I think the people like Alex and
officially, or I thought he's still going to spend time on.
I think he's retired from Nubank, and
yeah, exactly, yeah. But he said he's going to just focus on
spending more time with his children, which is meant to be Clojure, but who knows what's going on there?
I don't Clojure is one of the kids.
I don't know, one of his kids, yeah. But and good luck to the bloke. But it would be. It seems like Alex and Forgus are doing good work in 112. So there is some positive stuff coming out of it. Because I think it felt a little bit like it was in the doldrums. At least for me, it felt like 111 especially was a bit of a nothing burger, and 112 looks like it's going to be pretty huge, So it's a pretty big step forward.
There is good stuff in there, a lot of stuff that should have been fixed a long time ago. Just these like little sharp edges, So
well, some of the big stuff. I mean, the whole kind of like all this Java interop stuff. That's pretty huge. I think I'm not saying it shouldn't have been done a while ago. I'm agreeing with you on that, but I think it's not just small stuff anymore. I think it's it's pretty big.
I mean, I guess like it. For me, in my mind, it's like small stuff because I only do so much Java interop. So it's things that I need every now and then. And when I need them, it's great that they're there.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like there's big engineering behind these things, and it's good and impressive work.
Yeah, I mean, and so that really feels like they're kind of like firing up again. They're firing up the kind of motors to keep on going because. I spoke with some people a year or two ago, and it was like, what the fuck is going on? It seems like everything has just stopped. There's no spec 2, there's no this, there's no that. Nothing's coming through. Everything is like, everything is kind of like.
I think we should.
Well, that's a bit of an,
that is a bit of an embasemment. I don't know if it's ever going to be out of alpha at this point.
Yeah, who cares really? I mean, I think it's like you say, it's beyond it. There's no hope for it, but it's actually still.
We should do something
quite useful too. But anyway, the point is that it kind of felt like it was like definitely like. Wouldn't even say coasting. It was sort of like it was kind of like going down because Java was getting more and more functional and more kind of usable actually.
But isn't this something that eventually all languages should do, right? I mean, like, because Clojure brought some mindset, right? And I'm not saying it has reached a critical mass. It's not going to be one of those languages that showed up for some time and then just disappeared, right? It has reached a critical mass. It's been in production.
My point is that's not true. See, because
Oh,
I think if you don't keep up with the underlying like virtual machines, the underlying
platform.
operating systems, underlying things, then I think you lose relevance. And I think to the point of that, I was trying to land on was that, I think if you want to attract people to the community, it needs to prove its worth. It needs to be value adding. It needs to be fairly smooth to do all the things we want to do. And there was a lot of stuff that suddenly became hard. Interrupt became hard. It became kind of like annoying. And that's just stuff that just puts you off, because you can't use the libraries, or you can use them, but it's like this much code, that, for the non-viewers, that's a lot of it's a big bucket of code, and that's not what Clojure is meant to be, So I think we while the center is doing some good things to do that, and Borkdu is doing some good things. I think conferences and these online things, they're also a way of making it relevant, keeping it relevant. So, I think that's, I really appreciate you doing that, I've got to say.
It's kind of like economics, right? Like, it doesn't matter if Clojure is actually more popular than in the past. What matters is that it has the perception that it is.
I'm not sure
it's
I follow that, but okay.
But because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, if people feel that Clojure is popular and it's it's going to stick around, then
it is going to stick around.
Then it's going to stick around. And if people are convinced that it's no one's doing it anymore and it's dying, then it's going to die.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. It's kind of like the problem with that is that, I'm kind of completely. I think that the stock market seems to be mostly detached from reality these days. But I take your point that real economics, is somehow linked to perceptions as well as pure kind of bullshit that these markets are doing.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm not part of the Clojure company, but I do have some side projects and other shit that I do. But from your point of view, Arne, running a company that's primarily doing Clojure work, or maybe only Clojure work, so you have the pulse on the quote unquote business side of the Clojure thing. So how do you see that? Because it's been almost I would say 6-7 years. I think you've been doing consulting before that already.
I mean, I've been doing Clojure consulting, for at least 7-8 years. Been doing Guy1 for 5.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard, right? It's really hard for us even to judge, because we're small enough that it's all anecdotal. We gain or we lose. Between 1 and 3 clients a year. Right. And it's it's always some kind of coincidence of running into the right people. So it's impossible to really say anything statistically relevant about that. I mean, talking to folks at XT24 and generally, like I said, the Crew and Nubank and Griffin and some of our clients and former clients that are doing cool stuff. I mean, I do think there's a lot of Clojure around. There's a lot of companies that do build on it. I don't have the feeling that it's shrinking or dying or anything like that. I do think it's it's a healthy ecosystem. It's been a tough year. I mean, I hear similar signals from other Clojure consultancies in Europe.
Yeah.
But that's just IT in general. All budgets have been frozen for the last 12 months plus. And it's been same for us. We have one big client that we're very grateful for, and currently they're keeping us afloat. But everyone else has shrunk their budgets. They're okay, we they're basically on some kind of retainer. We tell them, okay, this is our smallest, our medium, and our large retainer package.
Yeah.
And they're okay, can we go way below that smallest one?
Oof. Yeah, but it's probably mostly, as you said, industry level thing than a reflection on specifically on the language.
Exactly. But my, generally speaking, I will say the pattern that I kind of see like I think, like something like a Rust or a JS, or these are like general trends that people hop onto, and that like multiple people in a company, sometimes even from the
Yeah.
investors down, it's just like, okay, this is the obvious option.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
doing something with ops automation, like maybe you're doing it in Go, because that's,
Yeah. Yeah.
just a lot of people seem to agree that that's like the obvious choice.
Yeah.
And Clojure, it like companies that really build on Clojure, it's usually like a CTO who, truly believes that this is superior technology.
Yeah. So there is a champion for
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
language. Yeah.
There's a true champion, and that's like, that's really sort of the pattern, and that's also sort of what we're starting to realize,
Mm.
in doing sales, that this like traditional, sales funnel, trying to find companies and, just like bulk contacting them, and
Yeah.
it doesn't really work for us.
Yeah.
What works for us is like finding those champions and becoming buddies with them.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. 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 Because it's not
Get them all
something
in a
that.
conference somewhere. Maybe have them. It could be a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, hopefully there will be some business done at the Heart of Clojure. Because
Yeah.
I mean,
people will come
I think
together.
that's one of the most special things, or one of the most gratifying things for me to think about and to realize that, like, there's gonna be stuff happening there. There's gonna be connections made there
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
really gonna alter like the trajectory of people's lives.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
People are
Yep.
gonna get jobs there. People are gonna get business deals there. People are gonna meet people there
Yeah.
who they might have a job with years down the line, but that like is
Mhm.
really impactful. And that's really special.
Yeah. But from the maybe not from the economics angle or the financial angle, when you talk to these folks, the people who are championing closure, so what do you see them get excited about? So people hear this kind of stuff. I'm assuming there is a lot of non-closure people who listen to Defen. Obviously, it says on the title. It's like
Yeah. Always first on r/programming.
exactly. This is the place where they come for it. Okay. I want to know what this stuff is about. So,
Pulse on the
yeah,
industry.
yeah. So what do you see like from those people getting making a choice that okay, I'm gonna go with closure, or is it the no, I'm not gonna put any anchoring effect here. So please go ahead.
I mean, like, you're asking me like why those champions
Yeah.
do what they do, like
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
they choose Clojure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually it is a good question, because it's not an obvious answer. I mean, there are some obvious answers, because like we're all, like I sometimes feel that like in the Clojure community, like to everyone inside the Clojure community, it seems so obvious why you
Yeah.
would do this, because it's
Mm.
just, like light years ahead of everything else, it seems.
Mm.
And from outside of the Clojure community, it seems just bonkers that you would do it,
Yeah.
because it just is like,
It's all
just,
nebulous ideas that
yeah, just alien and
Mm.
um, but no, I have like really been like actually investigating almost like this very question. So, for instance, if you listen to some of the old interviews with some of the Nubank founders and like technical leadership,
Mm.
they really talk about how like Clojure is really great for their domain because it's so functional, for starters. So like all this money modeling as just pure functions and being able to
Mm.
test that all as pure functions, um, is really great. Um, I think, yeah. I mean, but honestly, like I think it's also often just people knowing the experience of like REPL driven development in this like interactive development, and being aware like just how fast you can move with that
Yeah.
if you do it properly.
Mm.
Um, let me because I actually have some notes about this.
Ooh.
Because I'm really like, and it's not just Clojure, right? Like this is sort of like a question, like a thesis that I'd like to further dig into.
Mm.
Like, what are the economic incentives for functional programming?
Mm. Yeah.
Like, because like you can like if you really want to have this stuff, and like I think there are like genuine advantages that you as a company can have by going with a functional language.
Yeah.
That can appeal to the business, like, but like we need to tell that story.
Yeah. I think maybe it's a sacrilegious, but I know that Standard Chartered maybe used to have, or they still have their own Haskell compiler or something. Like they had a huge team doing Haskell in Singapore. I think especially in the financial domain, there is. I think if you dig deeper, you have a very specific type of case that you can make.
Well, I think the classic example of that is Janet Street, isn't it, with our camel?
Yes.
I mean, that's, and of course, Nubank with Clojure. I mean, this is an amazing story, really.
So maybe that's where Clojure finds the killer, quote unquote, killer application.
The weird thing for me
building
is that,
banks.
I mean, the weird thing for me about like the economics of Clojure. I mean, fundamentally, I think the economics of Clojure is that you can take a problem and have an answer for that problem with a team of 2 to 4 people, which would in another language would, let's say for about the same time, 3 to 6 months. In another language would take like a team of 8 to 10 people, and the problem there is that there's a kind of, we know the Fred Brooks silver bullet thing. Every time you have an extra person, you exponentially increase the amount of communication you need to deal with, the amount of process you need to deal with. But somehow there's a feeling, and again, I'm not quite sure, because I'm with you, Arne, that the economics are a mystery to me as to why people, given the fact that we know, at least anecdotally, and in reality, in fact, in my own experience, I'm sure in yours, you can deliver more with less people with Clojure. With fewer people, sorry, with Clojure. But it seems like whenever I've been in a project, I start off a project and I'm at a company and I say, okay, we can do this thing in 3 to 6 months. And there's like 1 or 2 of us end up doing most of the work. And then they suddenly increase the team to like 4 or 6 people and everything starts to slow down. And I feel like there's a sort of bus factor problem almost. I feel like there's a management issue in the middle layer of a lot of management environments. Is they're like teams of like 4 to 6 people, and not teams of 2 to 3 people. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's kind risk of like, management, right?
Well, but the problem is that like the economics of it favor Clojure, but some of the organizational culture often disfavors that kind of, bizarrely, that kind of efficiency and that kind of power. That's my experience anyway. I don't know if you've, I mean, this could be a completely like random experience, but
no, I think it's something that we've seen everywhere, right? Because I feel like it's probably related to the idea that the longevity of the team is very relevant from an organizational perspective. Like because okay, I'm going to invest, I'm going to make these 2 people build something. Those 2 people decide that, well, I'm done and I'm moving. Then I'm fucked, like building the team. And the reason why they have these redundancies, like 7 people or 4 to 6 people or 2 pizza team, whatever, is to keep that control. Probably that gives you some sort of insurance.
I suppose what I'm trying to say, and I'll obviously bring Arne in for his thoughts on this in a second. What I'm trying to say is that somehow at a certain, with a small team, like literally 2 or 3 people, you can get a lot done. And once it goes to 5 or 6 people, a lot of those gains are kind of lost, I feel. I don't know if that's actually true, but it feels a little bit like that. Anyway, Arne.
Well, there's a big difference between a 2 or 3 people. Like the charts about like number of connections between people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
With 2 people, there's 1. With 3 people, there's 3.
Yeah.
With 6 people, how many are there? Like 100 or something?
6,
like
6
yeah, it just exponentiates. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it just blows up so quickly, right? Like it's like 6 people need to talk to 5 other people each, so it's like already like, I don't know. So that means that like I don't think there's anything like per se wrong with a team of like 5, 6 people. I think you can do great work with that.
Sure.
But you need much more of a management structure around it.
Mm.
You need a process to like make everyone work together. Whereas with 2 or 3 people, and I think that's like, I mean, that's also, because Clojure self-selects generally for more senior. And so I do think that is sort of like, I think it's partly a cultural thing that like a lot of Clojure stuff that gets delivered is an individual or 2 people or maybe 3 people, because they're like, A, they're very senior, they can get a lot of stuff done by themselves. B, they're senior enough to just be self-organized and self-guiding. They don't need a lot of, management and steering. And so you can just give them a task and let them run with it. And I think like those profiles actually have a harder time than someone who's like less independent and less used to always doing that, like in a 5 or 6 people team. Right? Like it's a different kind of profile, like people who really thrive in a 6-person team versus people who thrive as like, 2 individuals with like very high level of, executive decision making.
Yeah.
Now, I'm wondering how that plays into the sort of like pitch for Clojure, as it were, whether you feel these two things are related or whether it's like that's kind of language agnostic. That's, so I'm trying to say that there is a kind of, I feel like there is a kind of bind there, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, there is, like it's really something to think about, because like, like a lot of like if you're hiring for Clojure, like, and that's already like it starts there, right? Because like the whole counterpoint, because you can say, okay, like you're more efficient with Clojure, you can get go faster, get more done with Clojure, but the counterpoint is the labor arbitrage. Investors will tell you, no, you can't do it in Clojure, you have to do it in JavaScript because there's a million JavaScript developers. We can push the price down, we can swap people out, it's going to be better in the long run, we can just treat people like cattle. And that's what we want. So that's already the first thing you need to like fight against. But then also, like when you're then people who do go for Clojure, they very often say, well, we're building out a Clojure team, we only want seniors. And you can kind of do that because in Clojure there are more seniors, like
compared to the other
compared to other ecosystems.
It's not a good plan, though. It's not a good plan.
It's not a good plan, but it's understandable, right? And so that's one thing. But then I think, you do need to stick to a fairly small team and say like, okay, like we're like 3, 4, maybe 5 people. Like I know, like a couple companies like that very consciously make that decision. Like we are going to run for multiple years with less than a handful of people, but they're all very senior. They all work very independently. That's our strategy. But if you're going to have to scale beyond that, that's going to be a really big shift. That's going to be tough. If you want to, like have more like a healthy, sustainable system that from the get-go, where it's like a mix of levels, you're able to like scale teams up and down and like have like a healthy, where you're like training people internally, where you have some streamlined management process around delivery that people can kind of move into and not have to like reinvent it every single time. Like that's more upfront work, that like a lot of technical leaders also just kind of don't necessarily feel like doing.
But it's nice that Clojure is at a level where we're discussing these problems rather than like the initial hiccups of using a language or bringing a language into the thing. I think it's a really nice place.
I think what you're hinting at here, Arne, is a bit like the sort of volunteering and management problem, and typically, I mean, as a Clojure developer myself, I don't want to manage people. I want to program things, and I've I've seen a few people who were ex-Clojurians become like team leaders and managers who don't commit that much code anymore. But it's not that often. It's not that common, I feel.
Yeah, and we've seen just among our clients, I've seen this now a couple times that situations where you have a technical founder and a non-technical founder, like a business guy, and so the technical founder is like, he's that Clojure champion, right?
Yeah.
He's all in on Clojure, which and that makes him a great technical founder because he can crank out V1 on his own in a month.
Yeah.
And so, but like these kind of folks, when they start building out a team, de facto, they are expected to then be the people who lead the technical team, who do the technical leadership.
Yeah.
And then they discover that
they're not made
that's
for it.
just not their forte.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of hats as a CTO, like there's actual like technical work you're probably still doing. There's business level like executive decision making that you're involved in. But then there's the technical leadership, and like these roles, they're often like much stronger on the first two than on the last one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's where the challenge is. I mean, I think the sort of gap between the people like being able to make solutions that are really good really quickly in Clojure, and this kind of management level where the managers really understand the benefit of that. Because I think a lot of managers and product owners and sort of people in mid-sized companies kind of don't want to think about the implementation details of the languages or those kind of things. They just want to, they want to believe that all these things that don't matter. They want to believe that things don't matter. That Python and JavaScript and Clojure are basically all just the same thing. They're Turing complete languages. Come on, and it's like, for me, it's like super frustrating. I get why people feel like that, because they don't know anything. I'm sorry to say it, but we haven't taught them it, or they haven't learned it. But there's always this desire. I think you were saying earlier on, like DevOps has Go, Rust has systems programming, and everything apparently now. It's like ridiculous. I mean, it's an absolutely incredibly, a language which is going everywhere for no good reason, in my opinion. But Clojure does have a sweet spot among sort of like web stuff, but then it's challenging with Rails, which is much more. Everything comes out of the box and it just kind of works.
Yeah, because I have to say, and so okay, we're building. Like you remember last time we had this activities app at Heart of Clojure, right?
Yeah.
And it's a Rails app, but it's like it hasn't been maintained since like years before Heart of Clojure. And I'm not sure we would still be able to like run it like on Heroku or like anything, So, and there's also just some new cool things we want to do with that. So we're building one from scratch from Clojure, and just setting up like the web stuff, the middleware, some structure, like your styles rendering, like your database, like secret management, like all this boilerplate. And there's like, I've done this so many times now.
Biff, just go Biff.
Yeah, Biff.
Honestly, I think Biff would get you everywhere. It gets you all those things.
No, I
really need to no. It does though. I mean, in fairness,
maybe it does, but like like we have a very particular way of building our apps with Gaiwan.
Of course. Yeah.
And so I really just like I need to sit down and actually turn that into like part library, part template.
Right.
So that I can say, like new Gaiwan new.
Yeah.
And be up and running. The thing is, it evolves. It constantly does evolve as well. and there are like variations, like, sometimes we do use the atomic, sometimes we don't use the atomic, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like we always have ornament in there these days, like stuff like that, like, and that's like a little bit of setup you need to do. So
Yeah.
need to sit down, and it's something we're working toward also with tea leaves and tea gardens, like sharing more of that stuff and like being more
right, yeah,
explicit around our tooling and our setup.
But I mean, there is nothing. It's not like Rails was the only thing in town. At least in Ruby, it was the big one. But there is always having at least one or two things. Like in Python, for example, now there's just, I don't know, Starlight or whatever, a couple of things.
Yeah, I mean,
Compared to
Rails is
Django,
just the
there is
one that like really was the first to really capture people's imagination on this stuff.
Yeah. There was like a right time, right place. People getting pissed with enterprise Java and everything, and now we have this choice of so many things Rails like. It's not that unique anymore. But if you're starting a new project now, I mean, every language has one these days. So Rails like thing.
Like Clojure's always like rejected this notion so hard, and like Biff has like gone against that grain and said like, no, you know what, like, I know you all say you don't want this, but we're gonna do it anyway.
Exactly.
and I salute that, like, because I do think there's a place for that. Yeah.
But again,
and at the same time,
it's one guy doing it, like DHH. Biff is the Clojure DHH, Jacob, sorry, is the Clojure DHH.
I don't want to compare him with him.
No, sorry.
He's way nicer.
That's not a compliment.
No, exactly. Actually, these days, no. Now we know a bit more about that guy.
Back in the day, maybe.
Yeah. Sorry, Jacob. I retract that statement. Well, I'll edit this out because that's not nice.
But
anyway, I mean, this is all good. I mean, where were we anyway with the one of the things I was going to ask you about this conference, because I happen to know some of the venues. Switching back, if you don't mind, to that.
Absolutely. Because I'd love to like say a bit more, like talk a bit more about that. Because like it's I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Afterwards.
We have to do the thing that you said we're not doing. It's fucking awesome. we need to tell people why this is fucking awesome, and you should come to Heart of Clojure because Lewin is fucking awesome.
It is gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah,
I think
we do have those two venues now, which is gonna be really cool. So
double the fun.
Okay, but Ray, like you had a question, right? Or do you just want me to talk about the venues?
Well, I mean, I know those venues as well. So I just thought they're really cool and they're really interesting. So you've got more plans for them. So please, have at it.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me talk you through the venues, because this is a big thing. So last time we were at Hall 5. So for people who don't know, basically you arrive at train station in Leuven. You take the tunnel underneath the tracks, go to the backside of the station, walk another 5 minutes, and you end up at this park. And right next to the park, there's this big sort of like old brick industrial building where they used to do like maintenance on trains and stuff. And so since 5-6 years, it was fairly new when we did the conference. It's sort of been a community thing, like a place. Like there's some local restaurants in there. There's some local businesses in there. Some volunteers that like keep the bar open. And then the second, like the big hall that's part of it, you can rent for events. And so it's a really cool space, really bright, like next to the park. And so we had a great conference there. And I think it's one of the things that really made Heart of Clojure special is just, the vibe of that building. But we had two problems there. And that's actually like one of the reasons why it took me so long to decide to come back with Heart of Clojure, because we had a little bit of like like an unresolved issue there. First of all, we were really at capacity.
Right.
So we allocated a total of 250 tickets last time. And I think we even got a couple no-shows, which in the end we were grateful for, because the place was full. I mean, like you guys remember, like the place was full.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The second thing is that we got like, well, at least one sponsor. You were also there as a sponsor, right, VJ?
I think the
You were,
company that I was consulting for, Flexiana people, I
yeah,
think those
exactly. You're
guys were sponsoring this. Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
representing for
Yes.
Flexiana a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know what Flexiana thought about it, but like we had at least one sponsor complain about the location of the booths and that they didn't really have enough space and that it like
Oh.
they should have been closer to the coffee where there's more foot folk. And but yeah, like, we have it's a, I mean, it's not a tiny venue, but it's not a huge venue, like
Yeah.
we really had to like puzzle everything in there. um so like basically like we really could use more space because we felt like we could go bigger, that we could sell more tickets, and we wanted to make sure that we had the room to you know give sponsors enough space and like really like let them shine. So we talked to different venues in Leuven. um Nothing really like seemed suitable. And then we talked to Heart but in Heart, like Depot is bigger. Like, so Depot is at the front of the station. So you arrive in Leuven train station, you take the tunnel, but you go the other way. You end up at the train station square, like the big square in front of the station, and then tucked in a corner. Once upon a time, there was like a movie theater there, and they turned that into a concert venue. And so this is one of the main concert venues of Leuven. Like big names
Definitely.
play there.
Yeah.
And so it's really lovely inside. There's a bit of a bar, and then you have like this theater style seating, and then you have a big pit and the stage. And so we have oodles of place there to seat people. It's also like technically really well set up. So like at Hall 5, we struggled sometimes with like how bright the place was, and like you couldn't really see the projections very well. And actually, the guy who did our sound and light on the morning, I think like early the second day before people arrived, he like without any like safety gear like climbed up to like attach additional curtains to like black out like it's like
Yes.
okay, dude, commitment. Whereas like the Depot is like properly dark, like we're not going to have any of those problems. But Depot has kind of the opposite problem, that we don't really have space there to do fringe stuff.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bit of a hallway and there's a bit of a bar, but there's not a lot of room outside of that venue space. And Hall of Clojure is all about, the stuff around it, the fringe activities, the community stuff. So then we thought, okay, well, how about we do both? And the plan first, well, the plan originally was to also like lean much more into like interactive sessions, workshops and birds of a feather and these kind of things. So then we the plan was to have like talks in Depot in the morning of the first day until noon, and then afternoon of the second day, people split up across the two venues for these sessions. And then first half of the second day, we're still split between the two venues, and then end of the second half of the second day, everyone comes together again in Heart Depot for sort of like closing keynotes and some more big talks. And that's more or less what we ended up with, except that like we just didn't get enough sponsor and other like session submissions. We mostly just got regular talk submissions, and a lot of them were like really good talk submissions. So in the end, we do have a really full schedule, like just with the talks already, and we're just gonna have all of those at Heart Depot. But then from noon day 1 until afternoon day 2, we're also gonna have stuff happening at Hall 5. It's gonna be a bit split, and so like the more general and more the typical Heart of Clojure talks and the keynotes and stuff, they're like in those spots where we expect everyone to be in Heart Depot. Whereas when it's split, it's going to be more like the technical talks and like the stuff that like has like a dedicated niche audience, but like maybe not everyone is like that into. But so what it's more and more turning into now is that like Hall 5 is really going to be like community space.
Right.
Like,
nice. Yeah.
I mean, using the phrase of like, it's like the reified hallway track.
Yeah.
And we're actually thinking of like having our own, because there's the Hall 5 bar. But we're probably going to have like our own bar in the hall, like our own like Heart of Clojure cafe. And then seating there, workshop spaces. We're probably going to do lunch in Hall 5. We'll see, depending on the amount of tickets we sell, we might have to do like lunch in 2 shifts. But yeah,
I've got to say, the lunch
awesome.
was pretty. The food was absolutely excellent last time as well.
Yeah. We're a bit more limited there. So last time we basically could like bring in any caterer we wanted. This time we have to work with basically the restaurants that are already in Hall 5.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Now they do have like, there's a really great Palestinian place that does like, fantastic falafel, fantastic hummus, these kind of things. So that's a great option. There's a pizza place there, but it's not just any pizza. This is like slow or like long fermented sourdough wood oven pizza.
Fancy pizza.
Like it's like, the I don't know, what is it, like the
artisanal
gold standard of pizza, like
Clojure standard of pizza.
No, I don't know. And there's a bakery in there. We can like, there's some stuff we can get from the bakery, and there's one place that's not technically in Hall 5. It's called Content. It's like this store that does like basically like package free, sales of stuff.
Yeah.
And they also do, a certain amount of catering. They're the most expensive option of all of these, but they're also the one that like seems to allow us to like at least offer something a little bit more diversified. Because the pizza, I don't know, we haven't really made a full decision on lunch yet. Like the pizza like is great, but I feel like I don't really want to like make like the lunch option pizza.
Yeah. It's also the time-based thing as well.
Yeah, I mean they can do a lot of pizzas. Like we actually asked them, like how many pizzas can you do in an hour? Like, and it's like it's a surprising amount if they're prepared.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like compared to the amazing, like last time we had like Indian and I think like maybe something Middle Eastern as well or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what. But yeah, lunch. That's also why we really like need to get a sense of like, where we're gonna cap the ticket sales. Because one issue we have is like we're thinking of going like up to 400 people.
Wow.
Like we're not there yet. Like and we might not sell that, but that like that will be like the hard cap.
Yeah.
Like more realistically,
an amazing number. Yeah.
Yeah, I think more realistically, it's probably going to end up around 300. Maybe a little over 300.
Yeah.
But like we have a limit on the amount of people that we can put in Hall 5. I think it's actually less than 300. So basically, like one of the reasons we're like doing this split between the two venues and like making sure that we always have stuff happening in Hut Depot is that we want to prevent everyone at the same time trying to get into Hall 5.
Right.
Yeah.
Because also,
nice
we're not
idea.
like last time we seated 250 people, but we just had, like rows of seats, like, like really packed in. Now it's probably going to be more like round tables, like 10 people to a round table, something like that. So we'll probably have like, 100 seats in the main hall and then terrace outside, and we'll have the long table. So we'll be able to seat, like a bunch of people, but probably not 300 at a time.
Yeah. It's really nice though. Yeah, I think we are confidence starved. in the right now. So this is going to be really fucking awesome.
I think it's a very exciting kind of like switch up as well, because it's this kind of like dual centered place with a lot more like explicitly community oriented things where there's some preparation done. I think that's pretty phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
like the
if you
idea.
do need some
I hope it
help with
works out
that,
well.
Arne, ask VJ. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
no,
Says
I'm
the-
going to be around as well. So
Says the
I'll
man
hit
who
you up.
lives
I'll
next
hit you up in a
door.
back channel. But,
Exactly. Yeah. Then the guy who can just cycle there.
yeah, I know. I will.
That's
I will.
Ray. So
Yeah.
just pull him in. Yeah.
On that note, Ray, do you have a selfie stick?
A selfie stick. I don't know what it is even.
No, this is the reason why we call Clojure community old people.
Oh
We're like,
no,
what is a
actually, I
selfie
do
stick?
know what you mean. It's like this prolonged
360 thing, or is
extending
it
thing, and old
Yeah.
people use that, by the way, not young
Oh,
people.
They do. Yeah.
Come on.
They'll have like entire iPads on there.
Are you not defending yourself that you're an old guy? I don't get
I'm an old fart, but that's for sure. But that's not why I don't know about what a selfie stick is. But yeah, no, but
Yeah.
I can get one. I mean, they're pretty cheap. So
Oh no! I'll ask around. But yeah, so John and Malcolm, the Jugs guys.
Yeah.
In preparation of XC24, they did this video where they like walk towards the venue and like
I
while
see.
they're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about the thing.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe you and I could meet in Leuven and like
Mm.
walk from Hut Depot to Hall 5
That would be
while
nice.
I explain some ideas about the conference.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Good
don't.
idea.
I don't have the. I don't have the selfie stick, but I have the Mimo thing. The one that stabilizes your phone.
Oh,
That's even
so
better,
that
I
one.
think. Yeah.
But you need to really. Well, I mean, it depends on the camera that you're using. But if you use a wide-angle one, then it should be perfect for holding with the hand. But
guess I
yeah,
should. We should actually just ask a third person to film us, I guess.
that's even easier.
The dog agrees.
Yeah, sorry.
The nice thing about the
No.
selfie stick is you kind of know where you're going, whereas the person in front is sort of like always walking backwards.
Yeah,
kind of dangerous. But no, but yeah.
Then you need someone else to drive them as well. So you need a full crew now.
But yeah, okay,
With a dolly,
we can take this conversation off.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, get a ticket to Heart of Clojure, bring a selfie stick.
Yeah.
That would be nice. I think 2 Luminars. I don't know what is it called? Homonym? No, deminym. The word for people from some place. I don't know.
Yeah.
What is Leuven for? What is Leuvenars or
Leuvenars? Yeah.
Leuvenars. Okay, yeah. So a couple of Leuvenars talking about Leuven and introducing the thing. That'd be super cool. Anyway.
Are they the Kiekenfretters? Or is that Brussels?
I have no idea. Anyway,
so a lot of cities in Belgium, or in Flanders, like the inhabitants have these nicknames.
Okay. So they don't go by the city name, but there is something else.
Yeah, like in Mechelen, they're called the Manenblussers. Like the it's from an old tale that the moon was behind the church, and they thought it was on fire, and so they started like trying to put it out, and so they're like the moon fire brigade, something like that.
Okay.
So
anyway.
Apparently the Leuvenaars are the Pietermannen or the Koeienschieters.
Okay.
Now you know.
I think we'll leave that audience to look that one up and then history behind it. Maybe a nice story. But hey, I think the entire lineup is now announced, right? Or do you still have more? Yeah.
Yeah, we announced all 20 of them.
Perfect. Yeah, it's looking pretty awesome. I think very, as Ray was mentioned, like a diverse set of topics, people, not just old hands, but also some new stuff. So experienced people. So it's really looking really, really good. So people who are listening to this podcast, I think if you're on the fence, I think this is the place to be if you have anything to do with Clojure, whether you want to get started or whether you are an experienced person. So yeah.
I mean, this is one, like, people will be talking about this one for years, and you will regret missing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what's the story, Arne, about diversity tickets? Who qualifies for them, and have you got any left and that kind of stuff, or what's going on there?
We don't really have any left. We might still be able to give like tickets if people contact us. but yeah, like, so we had full scholarships, basically, like travel and hotel included.
Right.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
So basically, we told people, like, when they buy their ticket, they can pitch in a little bit,
Yeah.
and we match that. So we basically double what we get from donations, and
That's
then
really
based on
generous,
that, we buy plane or train tickets.
Mm.
In the end, we were able to bring in three women. One from Belgium, one from Netherlands, and one's coming from the States. But she's also someone who's like really involved with Clojure Camp and with like community stuff in general.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be like, first, that she's like very like deserving for everything she's done already.
Yeah.
And also that like it would be great to have a little bit more like Clojure Camp representation.
Nice. Yeah.
But basically everyone who applied will at least get a free ticket, like just a conference ticket.
That's great.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So don't be scared about applying for that.
Yeah. I mean, we took the form offline. We like, because it's also like, as organizers, like at a certain point you need to like wrap things up so that you can like move on and do other stuff.
Yeah.
But like, if you are listening, if you're a woman in tech, a person of color in tech, if you're LGBTQ, if for some reason you're like, you consider yourself part of a group that's like just not like, you don't see people like yourself in tech spaces, and you want to come, but the cost of the ticket would make the difference if you come or not, like, just contact me through any channel and you'll get a ticket.
Perfect. Yeah. Super nice. Cool. On that, I think we can wrap it up on that, uplifting note.
Hey.
Yeah. We've been bantering for long enough. I feel like we, like, as much as this is a very free form podcast that is like very often off topic, I feel like we've got to some pretty interesting discussions all in all.
I think the whole podcast.
I'm not sure if that's
topic.
a compliment or an insult.
Hey, we take everything as compliment. There is nothing that you can say that I'm going to take it as an insult.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good attitude.
Super.
Good attitude.
Yeah. It's really nice, Arne. I think it's nice catching up with you, and looking forward to meeting you folks in Leuven again. I think I got one of the early bird tickets. Probably I was just jumping immediately when you announced it. So happy to join and then meet other folks there. So if you're there, Ray and I will be there as well, among I think with other folks as well. So please come by and say hi. We know we've not been like doing. We are consistently irregular. So I think we're going to keep that. It's a mark of a professional. Keeping that
popping up for special moments like this is
exactly
is good.
Yeah. Then you have to listen to us, especially because there's an amazing conference coming up. So the conference is Heart of Clojure, heartofclojure.eu, and you can find Arne practically everywhere. But he is on Clojurians.
Remind us of the dates, Arne, just so we.
Yeah, I was just going to say. So it's the 18th and the 19th of September.
Yeah,
that's a Wednesday and a Thursday. So we did go for midweek days this time. That was kind of a constraint of the venue, so we didn't have a lot of say in the matter. But yeah, those are the dates. It's happening in Leuven, which is a really short train ride from Brussels. Like basically all the big Brussels stations and the Brussels airport are close by. There's direct trains from the Netherlands, France, Germany, and even beyond. Like you can take a night train from Austria, or
the Channel Tunnel, the UK.
The Channel Tunnel, yeah, absolutely, yeah. No, I've been
even the Brexiters can come. Yeah.
I've taken it three times in the last 6 months, and it's very comfortable. So and book, like, if you're listening to this, like, book your travel now, because hotels like are already like noticeably getting less available in Leuven. And like train and plane tickets are going up all the time. Yeah. So, get your ticket, get your travel sorted, and don't miss it.
Yeah, and amazing talks already, amazing lineup. So it's going to be worth going to Leuven and then meeting all the awesome Clojure people, because it's going to be awesome. Yay!
Thanks again, Arne.
Thanks,
Arne. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Defan. And the awesome vegetarian music or the track is Melon Hamburger by Pizzeri. And the show's audio is mixed by Wouter Dullert. I'm pretty sure I butchered his name. Maybe you should insert your own name here, Dullert.
Wouter.
If you'd like to support us, please do check out our Patreon page, and you can show your appreciation to all the hard work or the lack of hard work that we're doing. And you can also catch up with either Ray, with me, for some unexplainable reason. You want to interact with us, then do check us out on Slack, Clojurian Slack or Clojureverse, or on Zulip, or just at us at Defin Podcast on Twitter. Enjoy your day and see you in the next episode.
We just record everything and then later figure out, is there anything usable?